Hello, this is just a practice video. Oh, I like that effect. That's pretty cool. Okay, going to do a video blogging series. I'll eventually get it into podcast, make it as professional as I can. There's some certain aspects that I want to touch base with are, of course, estate theft and the tactics used by it. I've had my inheritance taken 3 times away from me now. First with my adopted father, my sister and I got shafted, and then my family, my sister in France, the only time I ever heard from them was after my grandmother died. Apparently in France, everything is divided equally into all the offspring. And I only received 1 phone call from my sister in my whole life, and she just wanted to find out if I was indeed a French citizen. And when she found out I wasn't, I never heard back from her, so yeah. So the 3rd time was a charm. Rednecks. White trash rednecks. And they literally got my mother to sign everything over to them and left her for dead. And right now we're in the midst of the coronavirus. And yeah, this was a particularly horrible one. It was very detrimental to my whole entire life. For the past 5 years, my last contact with my family was after my grandfather died, and I left to work for a drone company in Singapore, and I never got to go home again. Somehow, through social media, thanks to they're called flying monkeys if you know about narcissistic abuse. One of them's Nancy Burgess Holly. Anyway, I am just floored. My mother, I think, realized that she was wrong with doing this to me, and actually called me and begged me for forgiveness, that she was sorry, it was all a misunderstanding, and she had apparently broken 3 ribs. I zoomed down there. I'm like, it took me a couple of weeks, I think about 2 weeks since she apologized, and I was like processing this, and I was like, okay, I can forgive her. She's my mom. I love her. So I drove down there. Not so fast. I wasn't my own grandmother, and my cousin, Ann Howell, and her husband, Dan Howell. Why he doesn't use his own last name, I'm not sure. Anyway, they run to go protect my grandmother while my mom is on the couch. No one gives a shit about her. Okay, she's got 3 broken ribs, and they're all going to protect my grandmother. And literally, I think 2 or 3 days later, the house was put for sale. It's just incredible. And so my cousin's husband, when I finally got to see my grandparents' house, my cousin's husband shows up first thing in the morning at my grandparents' house, at my grandma's house, apparently to protect my grandmother. And his daughter, who I used to buy Barbie stuff for, I sent books to, like what aunts do for their nieces. I wanted to have a connection with her. I haven't seen her in over 5 years, and she's just looking at me with this look of fear, like I'm this monster. And they didn't talk to me, and they tried to call the police on me for trespassing. And make a long story short, I got some texts from my cousin's husband saying, ha ha ha, you think you deserve this money. And then he goes on to say, it's been so easy to push your buttons. All we've had to do is ignore you. Like basically laughing that my mother was dying on the couch, and saying how easy it's been to. So anyway, make a long story short, I was out of the picture for 5 years. So these people who are very low income, white trash, literally, they don't even have enough money to pay their house. My mom's worth about altogether, I would say, 800 grand. Now, me coming back, I wasn't even thinking about the money, to be honest. I'm over it. I've already dealt a part of my life fighting for my dad's estate. So if these people, these white trash rednecks, want my mom's money so badly, go for it. Just go for it. Y'all are going to end up fighting amongst yourselves anyway for it. Yeah, so what was I going to say? Oh, so Julia, Ann Howell, was pretending or to be my friend on Facebook and talking to me. And then I finally make it down there and she ignores me. And then the phone calls start to my grandmother. It's Julia and Dan. And they're wanting to make sure that I do not come for their Thanksgiving dinner. They don't want me around. Of course they don't want me around. They had already planned on all the money. I was even thinking about money, and I'm getting texts from my cousin's husband saying, you think you're going to deserve this money? You don't deserve this. Okay. All right, you little white trash, little rednecks. You don't have compassion. You're not even spiritually evolved. I mean, that's all you're caring about. My mother's dying on the fucking couch. And you guys are making phone calls wondering when she's going to sell her car. Like, already planning on her death. So, it's Easter now. They sold the house. My aunt, who married a 21-year-old guy from the Navy, get this, they borrowed 80 grand from my mother. I love those eye things. Those are funny. They borrowed 80 grand from my mother and said they'll pay her back. But they weren't even calling. They were waiting for her to die. So, it's sad. It's really a fucked up situation. I mean, so many people go through it, but I just want to put the light on how white trash, redneck white trash do this. And they think they're so smart. Like, okay, you know what? In the long run, 800 grand is a lot of money to white trash rednecks, I suppose. But, it's just unbelievable because my cousin's first husband, put her father, my uncle, into bankruptcy. He was a drug addict, and she married him when he was 16 years old. Severe meth, every type of drug you can think of. I mean, this is her choice in men. And now her second husband is after my mom's money. So she can't even marry with men that actually can take care of her. She has to marry men that target family members for money. And we grew up together. She was like my sister. And she was pretending to be my friend on Facebook. And my last texts from her were about her student loans and how they owed money on the house. And she didn't want to put it on her husband, Dan, because she was studying and they didn't want to lose the house. So, and then I arrived, that was like a year ago. And so then almost a year ago, when she texted me that. And I thought she was my friend this whole time. No, she wasn't. She was, this is another thing she wrote to me. I was writing, because on top of the money I didn't get anything. Like, no mementos for my grandfather. They took everything. Like, I got to the house and everything was gone. Just my mom on the couch left to die. Oh, yeah, what else did my cousin write me? She wrote something like, hold on 1 second. I should have put two and two together that she was a slime ball because she did this to her own father, okay? She left her father in bankruptcy with her first husband. Didn't even offer to help pay him back, work for him, do something, to say, hey, Dad. And she left her dad to die with late stage COPD, never even taking him to the hospital, never even caring any shit about him. I mean, she already milked him for all his money. He was of no worth to her. So now, these same exact people that were ignoring my mother and hoping, they weren't even calling. They thought she was dead. Okay, they thought she was on her last leg. So these same exact people have now left my mother alone with my sister, who I don't like to call her mentally ill because she's a sweetheart. She's just a little slow. I'll just say she's slow. She can't really, as of now, take care of herself. So 2 vulnerable adults, one with stage 4 COPD. My sister's at high risk for COVID. She's overweight and is immunocompromised. She has to get her blood drawn to check out with her medication, her liver and stuff. So if she gets it, she's a goner. Now, my cousin actually has the audacity, these same people who left my mom to die on the couch, who got up and took my grandmother, and see, they're greedy too. That's the thing. Like, there's enough, when my mom passes, apparently I think my grandmother is power of attorney, or either my pedophile aunt. Yes, I have a pedophile aunt from Alabama. I'll get to that in the next videos. Yeah, so these same exact people who've left my mother to die the first time, now they're calling her on Easter and wishing her happy Easter. Yeah. Months later. Which I think, especially the way her husband was laughing. I will end up putting these videos up here. And especially the way her husband was laughing about my mom's dying back in November. So I look forward to doing this series. This is just a test. I'm definitely not going to be doing this looking like this. But I just want to portray to the world how narcissistic personality disorder, flying monkeys, social media, COVID, disinheriting, hypocrites, white trash hypocrites. So you're pretending to care for my mother on Easter. You wanted to make sure I wasn't around for Thanksgiving dinner. But yeah, your husband and you are having money problems, and your husband accused me of coming down there. I don't deserve this money. No, I was buying a heating pad for my mom. My mom asked me to come. Just disgusting. Just disgusting people. Anyway, I'm going to put also on the videos the text messages that I got from her husband and her Facebook messages as well. So apparently I'm crazy and nobody wants me around, but there's about 800 grand, so I'd be the heir to that. So of course they don't want me around. So of course they're going to say I'm crazy. And yeah, so, oh yes, my aunt married a 21-year-old, and he's also really disgusting. But okay, thanks.